Hello and welcome to the Peas and Quiet podcast. On this podcast, we discuss all things gardening, including growing veggies and flowers and how to create your dream backyard alongside nature. My name is Robin. I'm an environmental scientist turned full-time flower farmer and gardener, and I'll be your host for this podcast. Today's episode is all about how to reduce your cost of living through gardening. I chat through how Scott and I are both reducing how much we spend to be able to garden and how that's also going to help out our grocery bill in the future. I know the cost of living crisis is a big topic at the moment, and I truly think that gardening doesn't have to be that expensive and can also end up saving you money in the long run. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to the land, waters and communities. We pay our respects to elders past and present and thank them for protecting our lands, coastlines and ecosystems. I hope you enjoy today's episode. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Peas and Quiet podcast. It is currently the afternoon when I'm recording this, and I'm sitting in front of a heater because it is quite chilly this afternoon. It's very overcast and a very wintry day. And I know I haven't put out an episode in a few weeks, even though I said I was going to be a little bit more regular uploading these podcasts, and I have just been pretty busy, first and foremost in the garden, and I thought I would just do like a little bit of a catch up, kind of what I've been up to in the garden before I get into today's episode, which is going to be about saving money in the garden and how you can reduce your cost of living through gardening and through growing your own food or flowers or whatever kind of backyard you have. But I thought before that I would just do a bit of a check-in because I haven't done a podcast in a while, and I've kind of just been trying to keep up with 2 videos a week on YouTube, although this week I haven't actually been able to keep that up, and I'm just doing the 1 video a week, and that's just because I have been having a bit of some mental health ups and downs. Everything in terms of like my physical health is fine with baby as well. I'm currently almost 23 weeks pregnant again, so that's probably why I'm going to be sounding a bit breathless in this podcast. That's why. But yeah, everything is fine with all of that. I've just been having a week. I've been having a week where I kind of started out on Mondays, and usually Mondays are quite hard for me. I think just because I'm really busy all weekend with getting a video up, and then it comes to Monday and I feel like I haven't really given myself a break, even though in my mind Monday is still like a get up and go day because it is for so many other people, even though sometimes I really need that as a rest day and I don't usually let myself rest, so then I just get burnt out a little bit. Anyway, it's not a great cycle. But yeah, I started out Monday just not feeling great mentally, so I took a mental health day, which I am all for. And if you ever need to take a mental health day, you just need to take a mental health day, and that's what I did, and that actually turned into a mental health Tuesday and a mental health Wednesday. That's been my week. So yeah, again, nothing has like happened. I'm just going through a few things really, and I'm going to do like a dedicated mental health and gardening episode where I want to kind of just get my thoughts a little bit clearer, because right now they're definitely not that clear. But being out in the garden has really helped me with those mental health struggles that I've had this week. And like I said, there's really nothing too dramatic going on. I think it's just pregnancy hormones and the reality of actually having a baby kind of setting in this week, and just, dealing with a little bit of identity changes that I've chatted about in a previous video on YouTube. that's kind of just hitting me hard right now. What my life is going to look like in a few months' time. So I'm just slowly getting through all of that change, which is good change. But it just takes sometimes a little bit of time to adjust mentally to that, and to really I think I just needed the week to kind of figure out what was actually going on. But anyway, we'll talk more about that in another episode. But I just wanted to do a little bit of a check-in because, things have been up and down, and that's just, the reality. I don't want to sugarcoat anything, saying I've had a fantastic week, and I hope you have too. If you haven't, I feel you and I totally understand. However, I would like this podcast to be a place that you can come to listen and either relax or gain some knowledge, or just I'm happy to just be your companion for an hour or so to get some stuff done around the house or the garden. That's kind of what I wanted this podcast to be all about, to be a very nice and peaceful place. And like I said, today we're going to talk all about money and frugality in the garden. Speaking of the garden, I think that's also just the timing of year where I do, things are very slow in the garden right now. I think I probably do have a little bit of the winter blues, even though our winters really aren't that bad here. Like, I can still grow a lot of food and flowers throughout winter. But I've been focusing on just a few other things this week, just like some soil health, soil fertility, really getting on top of that before I plant out my garden. And I've also been doing a lot of planning for what I'm going to grow in terms of food this year, because I've spoken about this a little bit before, but Scott and I really want to try and grow as much food as we can while we're still living here. So this week I received some seeds after doing an order for them. I tried to just hold back and not buy things that I really didn't need. So I was very intentional this time at choosing things that I'm going to grow, and I'll do an upcoming episode on things that I am going to grow this year, and I'll chat a little bit about that in this episode as well. But I've kind of just been organizing that, and then just envisioning where those garden beds are going to go in the garden, and really having to just minimize how many flowers are going to go in the flower farm as well, because I'm really not going to be focusing on that at the end of the year. I am going to be focusing on a newborn baby instead. And so that's kind of also just been change for me. I wouldn't usually be doing this at this time of the year, learning how to slow down. I would be more kind of in get up and go mode, but I've had to just shift a little bit what we're doing. And Scott has been really excited to grow a lot more food. He's very much into growing veggies, so he has selected a bunch of different seeds that he wants to grow. And we're really going to be getting serious on growing food this year. And because he has that interest at the moment, he's going to be kind of taking over a lot of that and taking care of the plants. I'm not going to be doing a lot of the physical work in terms of lots of pruning and planting and all of that. So he's happy to step up and do that kind of work, and I'll come in where I can and do some harvesting and preserving and things like that. So that's basically all I've been focusing on this week in the garden. Other than that, I've just been replacing some of the brassicas that have been eaten by the slugs and the bowerbirds around that like to eat brassica leaves. So I've just been replacing some of those, which thankfully it hasn't been too bad. And I definitely had a lot of plants spare, which was great. So they're all replaced now, which I'm happy, and I'm hoping that they grow okay. But I think let's get into today's topic of the episode, which is talking about lowering your cost of living through your backyard, whether that's growing food or flowers or whatever you're doing, to either make a little bit of extra income or just to, like I said, lower your cost of living through supplementing the food that you can grow yourself. and also just how you can save money gardening, because I could do a whole topic on this, but the garden world is, like most genres or hobbies or whatever, it's just oversaturated with products. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Go to Bunnings, you can see how many aisles of garden equipment and gardening things there are. It's ridiculous. Do we need a lot of those things? Absolutely not, but people still buy them, so it kind of feeds that economy. Unfortunately, a lot of those things aren't fantastic in quality, so we can really go through a lot of items that we use in the garden, and that can just kind of increase the cost of having a backyard and trying to grow our own food, which ultimately really should be saving us money rather than us spending more money. I do understand, if you're running a business, there is a certain extent to how much money you do need to spend to make a profit. I'm still learning all of that, because it still doesn't come naturally to me to spend money to make money. I'm always on the frugal side. But like I said, there are so many changes that we can make in the garden to reduce how much we actually spend and to reduce our overall cost of living, because majority of people in Australia have some kind of backyard, and that adds to the cost of living. Even if you've got a balcony, you might have some pot plants or things that you're growing in small spaces. It's just what we like to do. Obviously, a lot of people like to be surrounded by green things and nature, and there's so many mental health and physical health benefits to growing things. And we really don't need to be spending a lot of money to do so. So I'm just going to be kind of talking through different ways that Scott and I are personally trying to save a bit of money this year and to lower our cost of living, and why that is. And just kind of talk from more our experience rather than like a list of things you should or shouldn't do. And that's kind of like what most of these episodes are. They're really just, ideas and me talking about my experience, and you can take what you want and what you don't want from these episodes. But I suppose I can start to talk about why we like to be frugal in, pretty much all aspects of our life. We are very frugal, but in terms of gardening, and to be honest, that the first reason is because we don't have a choice. We live on one income at the moment, and supplemented by money that I earn online through YouTube videos and selling flowers. So overall, we really don't earn that much as a couple, so we are forced to live a little bit more frugally and not to go out and just buy things. We need to actually be thinking about things that we need and plan for it and budget for it to be able to fit in with the amount of income that we have coming in. And the ultimate goal, and also why we like to be frugal in the garden, is because this is the lifestyle that we want to live. We don't want to both have to have 9-to-5 jobs. It's not something that we're interested in doing for the rest of our lives. And I know things will change in terms of who brings in more money, because I would love it to be able to shift one day where I can be the main earner and Scott can not have to work and stay at home. Yeah, we really both don't want to be working a standard 9-to-5 job. Home to us is not just somewhere to come back to sleep for the night and to relax a little bit. Really, we want it to be our grocery store, our place where we can relax and have fun with our kids, to be able to provide for us financially one day, and to just make, our home and our backyard somewhere that we love to be. And so to do that, we don't really have a choice but to be a little bit more frugal overall. Also, things in life are just really stupid expensive right now. I don't really need to go into all the statistics of cost of living increases, because I think a lot of those statistics are actually wrong when you Google what are the increases in cost of living. I really don't think a lot of those national statistics are actually correct. I think they are really underestimated. And it just seems like every month things are increasing in price. I literally just got a text today saying that my phone bill was increasing by $3 a month, which I felt like it was just only 6 months ago that happened, when, for the past 10 years, I feel like it hasn't really changed that much. And my question is why? Why does it need to go up again? Why do I need to pay the extra $3 a month when it's the exact same thing? And it's just stupid. That's all. Just the increase of groceries and the cost of living in general, it's just really stupid in my opinion. And I definitely don't want my passion to be in that category. I really don't want to be having to have that massive increase in price to be able to garden and grow my own food. So yeah, that is another reason why we like to do things really frugal in the garden. And honestly, I just think in the past, I've really spent way too much money in the garden and learnt over the years that I really don't need to be spending that much, and that there's so many changes that I could have made to save money. Because when you are starting, it's very easy to spend a lot of money and to, fork out like $200 from Bunnings to start a garden, like to buy the garden bed and all the soil that you need and all the plants and all the fertilizers and the gloves and the shovels and all those things that we think that we need to start a garden. And something that I think of a lot is like that meme of growing tomatoes that I've just seen going around, that it's something like, why should you devote like months and months of your life if you're only going to save $3 by growing tomatoes in your backyards? And I think that couldn't be further from the truth if you implement certain things to change the way you actually spend money to be able to grow those said tomatoes. And one of those things that I'll kind of get into, the things that we've been implementing in our garden to stay very under budget, is to start working with what you've got and adding nutrients for free into your soils. I do understand though, if you have absolutely nothing and you're starting from scratch, on like a concrete patio, you might need to invest in a little bit of something to grow plants in. There are definitely options for you making your own soil, but sometimes it is easy to start out with a bag of potting mix and to buy a pot, or preferably to get things secondhand to grow plants in. Even just buy like the cheaper potting mix and to change that up a little bit to add and boost nutrients. So something I've been doing over the last few days, and I think I'm kind of slowly getting into like that nesting period in pregnancy where I just want to sort out the house a little bit. I've been wanting to clean out the fridge for ages, for so long. And the other day, throughout the week, I've been working on that. It was just kind of overwhelming. So it took me a little bit of time to get through everything. Not that our fridge is ridiculously full of things, but I mean, we have people stay sometimes where we'll buy something like some kind of chili jam or I don't know, some kind of relish, and that they really like, and then Scott and I might not love, and then you have a jar of something in the fridge that you're just not going to use again. So I took all of those out of the fridge and washed them out. I put all of the contents into a bowl, so I just had this like random soupy bowl of relishes and jams and just random stuff from the fridge. And there's actually quite a bit of nutrients in that I really didn't want to throw away. Most of it was just like homemade jams and like salsa and things like that. So it was all like natural, but probably a little bit higher in sugar content that I want to be adding into some of my worm farms and compost bins, just because it might attract the ants. So what I've been doing is actually just burying a lot of food scraps in my garden beds. And I have done this for years and years. Even when I was gardening like in a courtyard on concrete pavers, I was burying food scraps into pots. And this is one of the best ways I think you can increase the nutrients and microbial activity in your soil, is to just add some direct organic matter in. So I have just been digging some trenches down where we're going to be growing like our veggies. Preferably I want to plant like corn and watermelon and pumpkins in these areas. So naturally they need a lot of nitrogen, and that's what's going to be in a lot of your food scraps is nitrogen, and it's just going to be pure organic matter that is going to be added to your soils and will attract worms and microbes, which the plants will then absolutely love. And you'll be directly feeding the soil in place. It's completely free and is going to have a really wide range of nutrients that your plants need to survive. Now, I do have a lot of compost systems, and I've spoken about this a lot. And, usually I would be adding a lot of these things to my compost bins, like even our normal food scraps that we have, in a like a kitchen caddy on the counter. I've been burying those as well. And that's just because we have two main big tumbleweed compost bins. One of them we are finishing off and just turning every few days. The other one is very full and has a little bit of a vinegar fly problem because I've just added too much food scraps to it. So I'm just leaving that one rest for a little bit, and I can't add food scraps to the other one. So therefore I've been burying the food scraps. That's the story on why I'm doing that. But I also really do want nutrients directly in place where my veggies are going to grow. And I kind of want that nutrients in there pretty quickly, and burying your food scraps, they're going to decompose a lot quicker than they are in even a compost bin, particularly in winter. And you're just making sure that you're getting those nutrients directly in place where you're going to be planting. I know a lot of people have bokashi systems that do this as well. That's something in future I would love to do and trial out. At the moment, we just don't really produce enough kitchen scraps and food scraps for that system. We also do have 5 worm farms, so I split up the food scraps between those as well. We don't really have the need for a bokashi system, but I am really interested in those, and I think that is a fantastic way. You can make your own bokashi systems. You don't have to buy the already, done bins or whatever. But that's another really great way if you live in like a smaller apartment and have just a few garden beds to be able to add nutrients to your garden. I feel like I spoke about food scraps for way too long. Anyway, moving on. Another thing we've been doing is it's still spending money, but less money in my opinion, and it is less money overall. I've been going around to just collect some horse manure. I can get really big bags of these and get like 4 bags for $10, which is fantastic. And I've used this horse manure before. It doesn't seem to affect like the growth of plants. I know some people have had problems with contaminated manure from the grass that horses will eat and the hay and straw and all that. I don't seem to have a problem where I source this from. And I just go on Facebook Marketplace and look up local manure, find some bags, and it's a really great cheap way to get kind of like that bulk material that you sometimes need to add on to beds. So I did that today actually, and tomorrow I'm going to be taking that down to where we're growing our veggies, and we have the area covered with black plastic at the moment. I'm just going to lift that black plastic tarp back and then put the manure down and then cover it back up because we are not ready to plant into the ground yet. Obviously, I haven't even started my spring and summer seedlings yet. But yeah, horse manure, also cow manure and sheep manure, it's fantastic because it does have, it's really high in nitrogen and organic matter. And obviously it depends on your soil type, but for us, we have clay soils. So horse manure is something that is fantastic for our soils because a lot of it has, it's like stable manure. So a lot of the horses were eating things like straw and hay. And so the manure is very fluffy and light. And that's really what we need for our clay soils. So yeah, really just being resourceful, wherever you can find your materials to bulk out your beds is something that you can definitely do to save money. And if you don't really need that much material, but you still need to find like fertilizers for your garden, using things like liquid fertilizers from worm farms or making compost teas are also a really great option to adding nutrients, and that's what I've been heavily relying on for the last few months to feed my plants. And I don't anticipate having to buy too much more fertilizers for the growing season. I am pretty much just going to be doing my fertilizer Friday, I like to call it, where I make sure to grab some worm liquid and dilute it in water and then go and water my plants every Friday. And I just kind of rotate that around the garden to make sure that I can divvy it up to all of the plants and they can get a little bit of a foliar feed because they do uptake nutrients through leaves. But I think having all bases like, adding food scraps into the soil, adding something like compost or manure on top of the soil before you plant, and then using things like liquid worm fertilizer or things like weed tea. Just, pull some weeds from your garden, stick them in a bucket, fill it up with water, wait a few weeks. Might get a bit stinky, but your plants are going to love that. And things like comfrey tea. I've been making quite a bit of that, which is, I would not recommend making comfrey tea while you're pregnant. Lesson learnt, it's disgusting. And I can kind of do it now in second trimester, but I took the lid off when I was still in my first trimester. And it wasn't good at all. It was not a good experience. So just beware when you're making these things that they will stink, but your plants will love them. And over time, that smell reduces. So my comfrey tea is almost ready, and I am so excited to use that on the garden because I know my veggies are going to absolutely love that. Another thing we've been doing, obviously, is starting things from seed. You can save so much money by starting things from seed. You don't even need to be buying seed raising mix and pots to grow the seedlings. You can just literally throw them in the ground. For us, that is a little difficult because we do have things like bandicoots, and I'm pretty sure there's like some cats that walk around at night, which is very, very annoying. Not our cats because they are indoor cats, but yeah, I'm very suspicious that something else has been digging in the garden at night. But if you do have to raise your seedlings, which is what I have to do, there are ways that you can kind of like bulk out a seed raising mix. Definitely don't be buying unless you want to. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But I would avoid buying things like seed raising mix because it can just be so expensive when it's so much cheaper to just make your own. Try and find a potting mix that you like that fits in with your ethics of gardening, whether you want organic or whatever, and make sure just whatever potting mix you do get, it doesn't really have lots of large bits of sticks or twigs in it. Otherwise you can then just like sieve it to have a bit of a more finer mix. But adding things like vermiculite or perlite, you can pick up these for pretty cheap. I actually got a massive bag of perlite that has lasted me for 2 years for about $60, and I know that's a bit of an investment, but for the flower farm it was definitely worth it. It really did help to stretch out the seed raising mix. I also add things like my homemade compost and worm castings to bulk that out a bit. You can also just add like your native soil in, or sand if you live near like a riverbed or something like that. I don't know how many of us are living near riverbeds, but I don't know why I thought of that. Lucky if you are, I would love to live near a riverbed and have a river going through my property one day. Anyway, there's so many things you can add to bulk up your seed raising mix. Also, just go to your local rubbish tip and find some pots to grow your seedlings in. That's what I did. Or, contact a local landscaper, see if you can pick up some tube stock pots for really cheap, or your local nursery, or even Bunnings, or just wherever sells plants is going to have extra pots that you can probably purchase or even just, get for free. Or just reuse things from the kitchen, like yogurt containers or butter containers, whatever you've got, soy milk containers. There's so many things that you can reuse to avoid actually having to buy pots. I think they are so overpriced, and usually the ones that you actually get from Bunnings, they're not very good. They're not good quality at all. They're very thin and they just don't really last. So unless, you're really investing in heavy duty seed raising pots, I would really just recommend firstly just try and source things for free. Or if you are getting really, really serious, then maybe investing in purchasing, seed raising kits from somewhere like an agriculture store. You're probably going to save a lot more money in the long run. Something we've also been doing is we've really been planning what we want to grow and planning that very intentionally. I kind of talked about this a little bit before, but some of the things that we're doing and that I'm kind of framing my mind around what to grow, because I have a very happy brain when it comes to seed shopping. I'll just go crazy. I can't help myself. I really do open up my laptop and go on the seed collection or wherever I'm buying seeds, thinking that I have a 1 acre plot of land to grow all of these things like a market garden style, which is totally not the case. So I've tried to just not do that. And this is where Scott's actually been really great, because he's not wanted to get overwhelmed with growing things. And there's me in the background being like, what about this? What about that? He's been saying no, which has been amazing for me, because I didn't want to buy all these different things to try and grow this year. Because when am I going to have the time to do that with a newborn baby? I'm literally not. So that's not what we're doing this year. What I'm trying to do instead is figure out, okay, what do we actually eat? What do we buy each week, and what can I grow from that? Or reframing it as what actually grows really well in my soils and my climate that I can grow a lot of and that I do like, but maybe we don't really eat all the time, and actually change the way I eat to really just focus on creating new meals and using what I have, and making the most of the climate that we're in and making the most of what we can actually grow here. And I'm also doing things like looking at the dinners that we have and understanding what's actually on the plate. We eat a lot of we'll have veggies as a side with dinner. I'll chop up some carrots and cucumber, capsicum or whatever. We usually snack on them throughout the day. And so I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, how can I grow the side dish to our meals? So then that's naturally what I'm going to be selecting seeds for, so that I can take that out of what we buy each week, because we do buy quite a lot of fruit and vegetables. We really enjoy just eating lots of fruit and veggies. We eat mainly vegetarian with a little bit of fish here and there, but naturally we do eat quite a lot of fresh veggies. So, okay, I'm trying to think of, I need to grow things like broccoli, capsicum, snow peas, cucumbers, because that's naturally what we have throughout our week and we snack on and, eat a lot of. So that's how I've kind of just been like intentionally selecting the seeds that we're going to be buying and starting. Also things like herbs. I'm just so over buying a $5 bunch of herbs that last me like a few days. It's just annoying to me. So, I mean, while I have been doing that because we don't have a lot of like leafy herbs, we do have a lot of parsley and rosemary in the garden, but I needed some coriander the other day, so I bought some. Didn't end up using the whole thing, so I just chopped it up and froze it into like serving sizes of what we actually need for coriander. So trying to save that, and that's just what I'm going to start doing when our herbs start in the garden. I have so many baby coriander seedlings popping up in the garden because I was really lazy and didn't take the seed heads off the plants when they went to seed last year, and that's fantastic now because I've got lots of coriander coming up, but I need to be a bit more intentional this year of actually picking it and freezing it. I've got some videos on how to freeze herbs on YouTube if you're interested in learning how to do that. So yeah, herbs is something that you can really save a lot of money when choosing things to grow because they are so expensive at the shops, and also things like lettuce and leafy greens. I'm trying to grow a lot more of these, and I've been pretty bad at this, but this year I am trying to grow lots more, and rather than having like a row of lettuce, I'm just trying to interplant them between things like the flowers and the veggies and in the more shady spots to be able to have lettuce and leafy greens because we eat a lot of spinach each week. I'm trying to keep up this iron throughout pregnancy, so I'm trying to have like a massive green smoothie every few days or every day if I can. And I've also got this obsession with salad sandwiches at the moment, so I need to be growing some leafy greens to reduce that cost of lettuce, because again, lettuce is it's like $4 for a lettuce. That's ridiculous when you can get a $4 packet of lettuce and it's got like 100 seeds in it. So yeah, that's what I am doing to intentionally plan what we're growing to be able to save money. And another thing that I have started to do, we've really just been changing the way we eat a little bit recently to kind of just eat a lot more from scratch. And this is also kind of goes back into that point of figuring out what actually grows really well in our climate. And I want to really, really make the most of that this year and get a little bit more adventurous in my cooking and preserving. I know things like brassicas grow pretty well here, so I have planted a lot of those. Tomatoes do pretty well here, so I will be planting quite a lot of those, as well as a lot of basil. I've been craving homemade pesto lately, so I really, really, really want some basil growing. Green beans grow fantastic here. We have a very, very good climate for green beans. So I'm going to be planting them out really, really heavily. We eat a lot of beans, and again, that's something I can freeze. And also cucumbers. We had just like a mammoth harvest last year. We had so many cucumbers that I just didn't know what to do with, and I was eating so many cucumbers every single day. And this year I really want to get a little bit more adventurous and actually learn how to can things. I'm so terrified at canning things. I will say it. It scares me. I am scared I'm going to make myself sick and everyone else in the house. That's just not really the case though, because if I just follow all the steps and do it properly, I'm sure I'll be fine. So yeah, preserving is something that I really want to learn how to do. If you've got any tips on preserving, first time preserver here in terms of canning, because my favorite way to preserve things is just to freeze them. But I would really like to learn how to do like long-term storage of different things. So yeah, any tips, please do let me know. But I do think that we can really drastically reduce our food bill if I can grow a lot of different types of veggies, particularly things like the staples that we do eat. So yep, just keeping in mind like what do you actually eat, what grows really well in your climate, and focusing on that, and not being afraid to shift your meals and shift what you're actually eating if you are really serious about reducing your grocery bill. Because I am sick of paying we pay about $160, maybe a little bit more each week for groceries. I remember starting out, like in our relationship, when we first started buying groceries, it was about $100. So $60 increase, probably a little bit more. I'm probably underestimating that. $160 a week for 2 people is just too much. So yeah, I've also just been trying to make a lot more from scratch, and do things like, and start like making our own bread and pizza bases and all that kind of stuff, just to reduce our grocery bill. But there's definitely things I can grow in the garden to reduce that as well. Something else you might want to consider to reduce how much money you're spending in the garden is actually just to go on a no buy or a low buy challenge for a certain month, where you just don't spend any money and you just use what you have. If you're like me, you've probably got enough seeds. You're probably good for a while. So just plant what you have, use what you have, find resources, trade with people if you can, if you have a good community. I'm yet to find a lot of people that like gardening around where I live that aren't just obsessed with their lawn and mowing. Yet to find the actual people growing their own food. So wherever you can find different resources to be able to trade is always a really great idea. If you do need to like trade seeds, or if you know someone who has chickens where you can get some fertilizer from by, growing them a bunch of flowers or some food or something like that. I'm definitely going to be doing a low buy challenge with the flower farm this year. And in terms of the flower farm, I haven't really spoken too much about this, but there are ways, and I have a little bit of a list of things that I'm doing to try and save money with the flower farm. First one, I've kind of spoken about this, is I'm just buying less seeds and growing what I already have. And again, I'm being really selective with what I'm growing, and rather than just a few seeds of this, a few seeds of that, I'm actually just making sure to use the whole packet of seeds so that I can have either a full bed or half a bed of flowers. And that's actually going to make it financially more viable to grow whatever that flower is, because I know I can probably, make a few $100s out of a crop if I choose those ones that I know grow really well in our climate. And then the last thing, also just I've already mentioned, but we're really minimizing the amendments that we are buying for the flower farm. So I'm also using things like horse manure, homemade compost, seaweed, also some food scraps and worm castings to feed my flowers this year. So those are just some things that that they're on my mind right now for how I can save a little bit of money, and I'll see how it goes this year. I am really excited to see how much food we can grow. I think I'm just so excited because it's also winter, and I've been watching just some American gardeners and people in the UK as well, and Northern Hemisphere, growing all of their food. And you always want what you don't have. Even though I know winter, I love winter and I love the rest season and relaxing, I'm kind of almost getting ready now to finish that up and to start growing and getting back out there, even though it is such a chilly afternoon and I haven't really wanted to go out in the garden. I'm sure that will change. And the one thing I'm just really hoping, even though we can't predict it really, is that we're not going to go into a really hot period straight away like we did last year. We really missed spring, and I remember in November we were having mid 30s, or a day of high 30s, and I'm not excited for that for being pregnant. So let's all hope that we're going to have a nice, relaxing, cool start to spring where we can all be pottering around in our gardens, enjoying the weather and getting excited for a not extreme summer, but a very productive and hopefully abundant summer that's going to give us a lot of harvests in the garden. I would love to know your ideas on how you are saving money or reducing your cost of living through growing your own food. Let me know what you are growing or what you're excited for. One thing I didn't actually let you know, but I saw the first potato sprouts in the garden the other day, and I'm so excited for homegrown potatoes. That's something we do eat a lot of, and I'm really excited to be harvesting those because we spend a lot of money on local organic potatoes. So I'm hoping we can grow our own. But yeah, that's what I'm excited for right now. Let me know what you're excited for right now. And yeah, any tips that you have to reduce your overall spending in the garden. And just, yeah, some ideas on how to reduce how much money we spend in the garden. That would be very much appreciated. So you can leave a comment on YouTube. I have all these up on a YouTube channel now called the Peas and Quiet Podcast. Or if you're listening on a podcast app, I think there is some way I can add a little box on Spotify at least to be able to ask questions, so you can add your answers into that. And if you did enjoy this podcast, I would love it if you could give this a rating. It really does help push out the podcast a little bit. Let's get everyone talking about gardening and how to be frugal and reduce our cost of living. So if you want to leave a review, that would be greatly appreciated. Or if you're listening on YouTube, then liking and subscribing really, really does help me out. And that's completely free for you as well. I will be back with another episode next week. Some episodes that are going to be coming your way soon. I have the episode with Scott that we're having to refilm because I filmed it and I wasn't happy with it. So we're refilming that. That'll be coming out soon on our plans for the future, because yeah, there's some big ones in there on why we're also being frugal. I'm also going to be, like I said earlier, doing a chat on mental health and gardening and getting a little bit more real about just some of the things that have helped me on my garden journey and why I do enjoy gardening so much and why it's definitely a necessity for me to get through certain things in life. And I'll also be doing an episode on pregnancy and gardening and how I felt being pregnant and gardening, because it has been a journey. And I think a lot of other mums can relate to just that kind of change in your identity and not being able to physically do as much as you previously might have. And just, my experience on that, I would also like to do an episode on that. So those are going to be some upcoming episodes, but like always, if you do have any recommendations or topics you'd like me or Scott to talk about, or if you would like certain guests on the podcast, we can also plan for that as well. So thank you so much for being here and listening to today's episode. I really hope you are having a lovely day wherever you are in the world. And until my next one, happy gardening, everyone.